Yeah, one of the problems we deal with in our society today is
Hmm.
that we do not see long term. We think that our political events and our
Hmm.
social situations are just
Hmm.
something that happened recently. Like
Hmm.
some political leader decided to do this, or some school principal decided to do that. What
Hmm.
we don't understand is that there were long term plans set in motion. There was a kind of cultivation of the society in order to allow those plans to take fruit, to take
Yeah.
fruition. Okay,
Yep.
we don't see it, and how come we don't see it? Well, that's because that's part of the plan.
Hmm.
Part of the plan is that we lose track and lose sight of long-term importance, and we become enamored with short-term, entertainments,
Hmm.
or something that is designed to make us excited, like a new car, or an
Sure.
entertainment on TV, or some other game.
Hmm.
And this kind of activity is not new. In the Roman Empire, they called it bread and circuses. Okay,
Hmm.
in order to distract the people from what the oppressor was doing. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, with modern technology, it's even easier.
And that's right.
You can put people in an artificial world full of emotional enticement and entrapment called social media,
That's right.
where instead of being educated, they're just being encapsulated in a an artificial world that has absolutely no connection with reality.
Sure.
And therefore their emotional and intellectual resources are neutered.
Hmm.
They're no longer effective citizens. They're no longer watching the streets. They're no longer realizing what's going on in the world around them, and instead they're focused on some simulation,
Hmm.
you know, and some ridiculous drama based on emotional things that are not important to what might be happening to them in the real world. This is
Hmm.
extremely dangerous. If you're sucked into that kind of alternate reality, you might lose track of the real reality, which is going to be starving you to death, freezing you in the cold, or infesting your streets with drug addicts and violence. Now,
Yep.
was this accidental? Did this happen
No.
overnight?
No.
No, it didn't. Look at our beautiful city of Vancouver.
Yep.
The streets are awash with homeless in tents.
Right.
People living in their feces, uh, you know, putting chemicals in their arms. And now we've always had that to a certain degree,
Hmm.
but now it's out of control. The recent statistics show crime and up at about 30% in the last 3 years.
Hmm.
Do you know how amazing that statistic is? And this is not disputed.
Hmm.
That's unbelievable. Statistics like that generally move by 2 or 3% over years, not
Right.
30%. What's going on here? 2 years ago in 2021, our so-called mayor um, defunded the police by 6.7 million. Did you know that?
Hmm.
We now have practically no control over violent
Sure.
repeat criminals who commit a crime and then are released almost immediately to commit a crime perhaps on the same day. Again, how is this possible? How is it that we've suddenly become so uh, unable to control our society that we allow people to do violent criminal activity and self destructive drug addiction, and then we say that, oh, we're being cruel to them, or we're disrupting them if we don't allow them their freedom to do such acts. This is insanity, but it's not an accidental insanity. It's a fifth column social disruption.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who studied history will know very well
Mm-hmm.
that certain political movements in the 19th century and even in the early 20th century knew very well that if you want to take over another society, you can use war, you can use armies, or you can infiltrate, and you can eviscerate from within. You can sap their strength. You can destroy their social cohesion. And you can make it ripe for the picking.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what's happening right now around us in our Western society. There are enemies without who are creating a cancer within. And we can see it. We can see it visually on the streets. And we have political leaders who are not only doing nothing to stop it, they are abetting and helping these kinds of processes. And why is that? Because they're traitors. They've been trained to do it. They've been indoctrinated to do it by international organizations who are teaching them that somehow a drug-addicted community is something to be tolerated. What? And that people that are begging on the streets are somehow should be never arrested because they're only robbing and stealing because it's their right to do so.
Mm-hmm.
What? This kind of twisting of our reality and our society is nothing short of a war by other means.
Mm-hmm.
It's a war against our stability, our social cohesion, and our very concepts of what's right and wrong. Now, I know that you in the past have noticed some of these things. How do you feel about it?
I have very mixed feelings when I came across these people in our downtown stretch. But unlike most general public, I have strong feelings for these people.
It's an emotional conundrum because, of course, we have sympathy for them, don't we?
That's right.
And we should.
From a fundamental human being's perspective,
yes.
It is absolutely normal to have sympathetic feelings for these
They're
people
suffering
because we're all humans, and you don't like seeing other people suffering that way.
That's right.
Yeah. But unlike most general public, I don't see things the way the society or the intended societal mentality, the one that has been groomed and been grooming us and and condition us to behave in a certain way.
Yes.
I certainly don't behave that way, meaning that I don't attack those people. I don't despise those people. I realize, just like you, I realize that this is the reason why many other people see things that way is because of the grooming from various different environments. For example, certain social media platform had once posted some sort of I strongly suspect that it's some kind of a made up narrative such that they were trying to stir up the emotions or the social media responders reaction and drive them towards a certain direction. For example, it happened several months ago where they were trying to bring up a heated debate about clearing up the tent cities from within our city, our community.
You can't walk down the streets.
That's right. They kept saying that, oh, it's filthy, it stinks, it's not safe there. You walk down there, they will rob those 10 people will rob you blind.
Yep.
Blah blah blah, and they do drugs outright. Blah blah blah, and then immediately I could see a lot of mindless social media responders started posting, and it is very unfortunate to tell you that most of them seems to be responding kind of like hook, line, and sinker. They got doped into responding in such a way that the social media expected them to respond. For example, in those responders' wordings, there's a lot of misunderstanding as well as a lot of hatred towards these people. In other words, it's like, yeah, you know, oh yeah, the authorities is doing the right thing. Let's chase these people and close down the tent stuff. Blah blah blah. You know, oh, they're filthy. They're humans. They're human scums in our society. Blah blah blah. You know, a lot of stigmatism and false, a lot of falsehood, a lot of stigmatism, name calling, and unfair branding. Of these people. But unfortunately, the way I see it is that it is not as simple, if not
it's not as simple
as what these responders believe.
They are not just simple victims.
That a lot of these are so-called keyboard responders. Okay? They're the ones who constantly staring at their cell phones. You know, they're outside of the city. They're not even physically close to these people, the environment, letting alone that they haven't even been closely come to close contact with these people and, you know, these 10 city people.
Well, I see it a little bit differently. But first of all, I agree with you that these people are victims. They are victims. They're being used.
That's right.
And I would call them human shields. Just like in combat, where you take civilians and put them in front of your troops so the enemy can't attack without causing damage to defenseless, innocent people. That's what a drug-addicted community is. They're a human shield to protect the profits of organized crime.
That's right.
The medical industry. The social services, who make massive profits from their employment in these areas.
That's right.
In other words, there's an entire industry focused on just a few thousand people.
Correct.
And how does that work? Well, how that works is that, similar to the the environmental movement, where you had what was Greta Thunberg, or Dumberg as I call her. So you can't attack a 16-year-old girl who's going around yelling and screaming that the world's going to end in 30 years because you're doing global warming and it's all our fault. In the same way, people who are homeless and drug addicted on the streets cannot be attacked because they're defenseless victims. But what they are is an entire industry providing millions of dollars to organized crime who are selling these drugs.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
To the medical industry that remember, the public pays for the hepatitis A and B and C that people who share needles inevitably get. Okay? And that is not even talking about AIDS. We now subsidize AIDS treatments for people in these situations. And it comes to something like, I think AZT is the treatment. It comes to something like $50,000 a year. Okay? And that's a result of the fact that they're in a vulnerable situation. Now, shall we talk about the law enforcement, court actions, and social worker, pay and resources that have to be applied when a drug addict, desperate for a fix, because otherwise they'll have a horrendous adverse reaction without their drugs, right? These people are driven to break into the homes of your neighbor, perhaps you. They're driven to grab the cell phone of someone they see on the street. See, this is not the 1970s when people walked around with a couple $100 in their pocket. No, maybe $20 in their pocket. Having a large amount of cash has always been rare, But now people don't carry cash at all. They carry maybe a debit card or a credit card. What are you going to do? You're going to mug somebody and take their debit card and credit card? It's useless to you. You'd have to grab them and kidnap them and take them to the bank machine. Okay? Street crime is all about grabbing what's of value on your body. And what's that? Your cell phone.
Right.
Your cell phone, whether it's 5 years old or 1 year old, is guaranteed to be worth at least $50 to a black market reseller. Okay? So that's what it is. Violent crime, mugging. Just like in New York in the 1970s. Mug somebody, grab what's of value, because that's what a drug addict does. A drug addict is not a member of your community. A drug addict is not a normal person. A drug addict is like a wild animal. Like a lion or a cheetah. They live under different rules than we do. Politicians absolutely refuse to accept this. They deny it. They're trying to integrate drug addicts into our communities. What? That's insanity. That's like having a tiger in your house. The tiger's going to kill you to get whatever food it can. A drug addict's going to steal from you and destroy from you to get whatever it can. Okay? And to anybody to pretend that these people should be treated just like normal citizens and integrated in our communities, and of course we have to help them and blah, 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 blah. But in the meantime, we're not doing anything to stop the drug supply because we're defunding the police.
Yep.
You know what I call that?
What?
Treason. That's treason. That's a fifth column operating within our society to weaken us from within. Stop.